community work doesn't have a season. It's always going. But it just gives us a lot of joy to be able to make a difference for, we touch our community and with children, seniors, even our furry friends.
That was Bertha Fajardo, the San Francisco Giants manager of community and family programs. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco. Every week on this podcast, we bring you photographers, bartenders, and other San Franciscans talking about living, working, and doing their thing here. It's a way to get to know your neighbors. We wanted to let you know that tickets for Two Storied Nights, our event on November 9th and 10th, are now available on Eventbrite, so get yours today. Welcome to episode 48, part 2. In this podcast, Bertha talks in more depth about her work with Giants players, their families, and groups in the city and around the Bay Area. She also shares her more memorable moments with the team, both on and off the field. Here's Bertha.
Our furry little four-legged friends. So
Yesterday
was Dog Days of Summer, so it was great seeing all these beautiful dogs, and it was fun to have them participate in our parade. We do it every year, and just laughing at all the costumes and how creative their owners can be. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. We had a couple players out who, have dogs themselves, and
I missed that.
They were, popped out, and we're kind of looking at all the dogs and petting some of the dogs that were coming through the lines. So it's a lot of fun. My responsibilities include managing the calendars for two of our Hall of Famers, Juan Marichal and Orlando Cepeda. I'm also manage community programs for our players. Some of our players have key programs, like, for example, Buster Posey has this pediatric cancer awareness group, and so I manage that for him and his wife. I also manage our Giants Wives program, so getting them out in the community, either with their husbands or supporting the rest of our programs that the Giants have, through our Giants Community Fund as well. It's funny, over the years, we used to have maybe 2 to 3 guys that would live locally, like somebody like a Barry Bonds who grew up and was raised here. We don't see a lot of that anymore. It's kind of changing. Buster Posey is sort of now here year-round because his kids are, in school, in kindergarten, so he's, made it. San Francisco is going to be his home. He's going to be here a long time with us. So he's now here, but we're also weary of their schedules and what they do here all season long. Playing baseball and also working in our community and being out there, and when it's the off season comes, we like to give them their time, because they only have, really, if you think about it, 3 months, I think, per se, that they could spend. Baseball is a long season. It keeps them away a long time. So the off season, we respect that. We know that they want to be with their kids and be soccer parents, for the kids that are older. And we, know that that's a special time. But we also know that if we were working on a project or a program here, especially at the ballpark, they would come out and fully support and be there. However, we do have our alumni that live locally, like Avita Blue, Andres Torres now, who's now a recent Forever Giant.
Oh, nice.
And he relocated here with his kids. So we've got more options to reach out to some of these guys and have them come. We do a Christmas party in December for there's about 7 or 8 local homeless agencies. And we bring these kids out, and some of these guys will come out here and participate and bring their kids too, and have a good time, and, just bring some holiday cheer. Yes, I think we have, our ballpark is awesome because we have so much to see. We have great, I call places to, we've got you could see the bay. There's not a bad seat in this ballpark. The food that we have that, open to every palate around here, plus children, we have fan lot, Lucille's always bopping around. And so we've got a lot now compared to, ballparks a long time ago. So I think for me, you have the club level, and it's not baseball. This wasn't what I grew up with.
Right.
I grew up with organ music and baseball.
Right.
And the Crazy Crab, for a couple years, and It's right there. So that was pretty much what I grew up with.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with the nice, none of us did, with these really nice high-tech ballparks and all the amenities that come with it, So it's definitely changed a lot. We've actually had a lot of fans that have written, and tried to, it's given us some feedback and, what we could name it, should it change.
Right.
But I think I know we had a lot of ideas from when we actually had chose the address to the ballpark.
Right.
We had number 1 Willie Mays Plaza, and then someone said, "Why not 24?" Okay, sure, why not? And here we are. From the address to obviously our statues. If you go around the ballpark, we have the statues of all of our Hall of Famers sprinkled around, and our recent statue was of Gaylord Perry 2 years ago. So it's really nice to be able to go and see that and pay homage to these greats that are still here with us. Thank goodness.
Yeah, they all are. My favorite statue and possibly player is Juan Marshall.
Yes.
I love that.
Juan, the Dominican dandy.
Yeah.
Yes. He was our second statue. Actually, the third, I'm sorry. First was Willie Mays. Second was Willie McCovey.
Oh, yeah.
Over at McCovey Cove.
Yeah.
Juan Marshall, Orlando, and then Gaylord.
And the seal. Don't forget.
And of course, yes, of course. Over at Seals Plaza. I forgot about that. That actually was, the seal was actually added in 2000.
Oh, okay.
And in honor of the San Francisco Seals.
Sure.
Yes, and we had actually some of those players that played with us back, that were Seals come out that day to be part of our day and part of that dedication of the Seals. So it was really nice.
I didn't know that.
Dave Righetti's father was a Seal.
Okay.
And so he threw out the first pitch in honor of his father. And honor of that team that played with us. So it was great to see that. It's great to always have these guys back here. So nice. There's, so much that I've had, in all of my 21 years here, the good memories, of championships, no-hitters, 500, 600, whatever, home runs, 800. And great memories is, there's also the tough times, the hard times. 2003, we kind of have a new team. We have a new manager, and he's, coming in as a kind of like the new kid in school. The new kid too, and it's change is tough. And when you have a set key of players that have been with you for a while and now they've moved on, and you got a new manager and new players coming, it's tough, But you learn to get along, and you learn to welcome everybody and move forward, because everyone has a job to do.
Dusty Baker had been here 12 or 13 years.
13 years, yes.
It was a while.
Yes. And, very popular manager, and, and also a local, grew up in Sacramento and lived out. He has been living in the, Bay Area for so many years. Right. So, and, he was a coach, and, he spent years in Oakland, or actually, he was a Dodger, he was a Brave, and for him to come back here and to be here was great. He had a lot of fans, and he still does. So he's now back with us as a special assistant to Larry Bear and to Brian Sabian, and it's great to have him here, because the fans, they don't forget you. They don't forget, and they love having him here, and he loves connecting with the fans as well. So funny how trying to get him from one part of the side of the ballpark to the other could be challenging, because he has to stop by and say hi to everybody. So we have to allot in another text or 10 minutes. And this year, we've had a lot of, we're honoring or celebrating our 60th. So we've had a lot of celebrations and reunions and, anniversaries. Oh, it was great, because you kind of feel like a frat mom to some of these guys, or an aunt or something. And so when you see these moments happen to these guys, you're so excited for them, because here they've worked all their lives, little league, and bouncing around in buses and having their parents, and see how hard they work and how hard they practice, and to have that, have them do something so wonderful and for their career and for our fans and for our city is amazing. So emotions, and then also seeing that his parents were here that day we happened to be in town because they live in Puerto Rico, and they just happened to be visiting. And so for them to be in the stands and to see this live, and see how proud they were and how emotional, and not only them, but, our players all families all sit in a section and watching. I think Pablo Sandoval's parents were sitting next to him, to Jonathan's parents, and just watching the excitement and the hugs and everything, and have them be part of it was amazing. And our broadcasters, broadcasters are calling the game, and you could hear the excitement. And then, also that's also going to translate, whether it's in radio or on television, and get our fans excited. So for me, those moments like that are pretty amazing.
I feel like it was somewhat of a turning point looking back.
It was, because you have, especially, Jonathan or anybody. I felt the same way with, Timmy and Matt, but, Jonathan, who these guys who come from other countries, Puerto Rico's not that far off or anything, but, a lot of these guys are very proud of their Latin roots, and, and are excited to be able to bring, excitement to where they come from, and, sort of put them more on the map per se. But I mean, to be able to share that with their teammates, and their teammates to be there to welcome them, open arms, on the plate or in the clubhouse, it's pretty amazing. You're just so happy for them and happy to see that. You're just, you hope that moments like those continue for a lot of players. It's pretty emotional, pretty exciting.
Well, I was going to say 14 or so months later, he hit the division-winning RBI.
Exactly.
Against the Padres again. And
yes.
It's like, and then they're going to the playoff. So that kind of corner that I feel was turned at some point in 2009.
Yes, you see that a lot. With him, Ryan Vogelsong's another story. Yeah. Ryan Vogelsong in 2000 was, a rookie, and he just trying to get himself, established and coming up and so forth. He gets traded in 2001. He's part of the
Jason Schmidt
trade, and, Armando Rios. And he was, I just remember his emotions and how emotional he was, and couldn't believe it, and oh my God, I was just traded. And to see he's another fairy tale story. He leaves and he's injured. He had surgery. He couldn't land a job with the team in the States, and he went to Japan and he played. And all these years later comes spring training, and we're, there, and all of a sudden I felt a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around and here's Ryan, who I'm like, I'm like, oh my God, are you back as a coach? He's like, no, I was invited, and I felt really bad, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking, here, are you back as a coach?
That's what you'd expect. It was like 10 or 11 years later.
Yeah, exactly. 11, I think. And so when he comes back, I thought, are you coaching? And he goes, no, I actually received an invite for spring training invite, no guarantees. And so here you go. He goes to has an all-star game under his belt, World Series, and, we honored him, up on our wall of fame, Matt Cain and Brian Wilson, and all these years later. And
wow.
So it's pretty cool to see that, our wall of fame, and honoring all these guys there, honoring them, having them come back, and, us, all the community work they've done and support all of our community causes. That's pretty great. I kind of, sometimes people forget that, and, their job, their first and primary job is to play baseball, obviously, but they also support our community and have in so many ways, and still do.
Check back next week for the 49th and final episode of Season 1 of the podcast. It will feature former Muni driver Gary Weinstein. Music for this episode is by Otis McDonald, a.k.a. Joe Begale. Film photography is by Michelle Kilfeather. Follow Storied San Francisco on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our website, which has all the episodes and a store where you can help support the podcast by buying hats, shirts, and koozies, is storiedsf.com. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review the show. Send comments and suggestions to storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.